All right, so we are already rolling.
Oh, forget it.
I'm telling you, Barry. The podcast engineering show. Let's not delay. Whoa! That's right, it started. Wow! The podcast engineering show. This is, wow. Well, look, it's been a while since I recorded one of these, so I feel like I'm on the comeback. Although this might not be the first one you're hearing since we're back in the saddle. So I'm Chris Curran. I produce podcasts for the likes of Forbes and Dun & Bradstreet and E+ and select business authors and companies. And each week on this show, we bring you podcast production techniques on a silver platter. We get down and dirty. That's right. We talk shop with podcast producers, engineers, and other experts and specialists. I have a background in audio engineering in the music business, and since I entered podcasting about 5 years ago, I've noticed a huge lack of audio skills in podcasting, and that's where this show can help, because this show is all about the audio engineering aspects of podcast production. It's not about the marketing or the content or the listeners and all that stuff that is arguably more important than sound quality. But this show is about the sound quality and the equipment and the workflow. And if you implement the best of what you learn on this show, your podcast will sound a lot better and you'll spend less time producing them. Of course, Barry is with me. Barry, are you ready for Steve Cherubino?
Oh, forget it.
I'm telling you, that's like, does a bear, well, I'm not going to even say it. Jeez. Show's brought to you by Podcast Engineering School. I think I told you about that in the pre-roll. So Steve Cherubino is here live from Florida. He's a longtime podcaster. He's the host of the EDM Producer Podcast. And the website is edmmr.com. The name and the link will be in the show notes on the website, podcastengineeringschool.com. Steve, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks a lot, Chris. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, so we're going to have some fun. I mean, you've been doing this a long time. You and I have met several times before. I think both times at PodFest. You go to Podcast Movement as well?
I haven't been to Podcast Movement yet. One of these days I'm going to make it out there.
Okay, cool. So we're going to start with the speed round as we always do, and we want just a quick overview. And I thought of this in the shower the other day. You know how you get good ideas in the shower, right?
Oh my God. You're thinking about me in the shower?
No, not you. I was thinking of the speed round. Because
okay.
I don't know if as a listener of the show, you may, or any listener may have noticed that sometimes I ask people to give me the speed round and they go and they don't stop and they keep going. So we're going to compartmentalize the speed round. That's my idea anyway. And
okay.
You're the guinea pig, Steve.
Sweet. Let's do it.
All right. So the speed round is where we want to know all about your production equipment and your workflow, basically from the time you're about to record an episode. Because, again, preparing the content and writing your show notes and all that, we don't care about that on this show. But when you're literally about to hit record, we want to know like what mic you have, where the mic is going into, and then what you're recording on and how your guests are connecting. And then the post-production, like what software do you use and you know, briefly, you know, the overview of editing and mixing and editing. Just the bare bones overview, and then of course the mastering and the leveling at the end, and then of course creating the MP3 to upload to wherever you upload it. Okay. But we're gonna compartmentalize it. So tell me first, and give me seriously 5-10 second answers to all these. All right.
Okay.
You ready? I wish I had one of those clocks, like a TikTok clock. All I have is a 1K tone.
You don't have to worry about me.
Which a 1K tone, I mean, that's not going to really, that's not going to get anyone excited, I don't think.
I usually listen more than I talk, so you don't have to worry about me. I'm not one of those people.
All right, so let's start with your microphone. What mic do you use?
I'm using right now an MXL 990, super cheap budget mic. It's a condenser, but works good. But for most of my shows, I've used a Shure SM58, believe it or not.
Oh, 58, okay. And so where's your mic plugged into?
It's plugged in currently to an audio or an Avid M-box, and that's what it's plugged into.
Okay, and the M-box goes into your computer?
Yep, it's just an audio interface. It goes USB into the computer. I record my shows on Studio One.
Studio One.
Pro Tools killer.
Yeah, I just looked into Studio One. Well, because I'm a PC guy, and what is it? Logic Pro is a Mac software.
Yeah, Studio One's Mac and PC, but you have Ableton, Logic, Sonar, Cubase, all of them.
Right.
I use Studio One, but yeah, Logic's only on Mac.
Right. Okay. So, and now, when you have guests, how does the guest connect?
I use Skype, and I actually record them on a separate track in Studio One through Skype. I actually route their output or their signal goes into another audio interface, which then goes into my M-box, and I record them on track 2 of channel 2. So both the guest and me go through the M-box and record into Studio One, me on track 1, them on track 2.
Okay, and the Studio One software and the Skype app is open on the same computer.
That's right.
Okay, so you're just running Skype out of the computer, then back in. Okay, got it. And then, so you record them on separate tracks. That's awesome. And then you mix in Studio One, I assume?
Yeah, mix in Studio One. You want to know what plugins I use and such?
We'll get into that when we go back through. So then you mix it there, and then do you do any type of mastering at all or leveling?
Of course, a limiter on the master channel. Who doesn't? Isn't that mastering? I thought that was mastering.
Nice, perfect. And then do you level it to like the LUFS level?
No, I don't know. I actually don't even still know what LUFS is.
Oh.
I actually my mastering is put a limiter on the master channel and watch for a little. Let it basically tickle the limiter.
Nice.
That's my mastering. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then, of course, how do you create the MP3? How do you switch it over to an MP3?
I actually do it in iTunes because I found it's the best converter
Nice.
or best encoder. It's I mix out of Studio One as a wave, open it in iTunes, convert to MP3 there.
Nice. All right, cool. So that was the speed round compartmentalized.
But I use special settings in iTunes. I don't use the default. Like I actually convert to a 192 mono MP3, and I recommend that because it's a huge difference between 128. Sometimes it'll mix to 64 stereo, and it sounds like crap.
Oh,
so hit it up on mono. There's no need to really have stereo in a lot of people's podcasts, and bump it up to 192, and it'll basically be the same size as like a stereo, like 128 or 64, and sound better. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never heard anyone do that, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, the if you're going to go mono, then yeah, you can at least do 128 or actually standard is mono 64. That's like
there's no need for 64 in this day and age, in my opinion. I mean, we have the bandwidth. If you're not at least 128, you're sacrificing so much audio quality between 64 and 128. So if you hit 192, it sounds like CD quality. Well, it's CD quality.
Yeah, almost. Yep.
Oh, no, it's not. CD's waves. Okay, yeah. It sounds good. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, of course. And then, of course, pretty much the highest you can go on an MP3 is 320 kbps.
And I haven't seen much difference between 192 and 320 for a podcast.
Interesting. Yeah, and once you're at 320, you're like literally 1/3 the size of the actual uncompressed wave file. Right. So that's a big file.
Yeah, it's unnecessary, I think.
Right. All right, so let's go back through it. You got your MXL 990 mic. It's actually a condenser mic, huh?
Yeah, I like trying different budget mics just because usually I don't have the budget to buy a really nice mic. But I'll tell you what, honestly, I had a Heil PR, what's the one everybody uses?
PR40.
I had one of them for years. And it was cool and it was fun and it did the job. But, just match the mic up to your voice. It's not really about that. I'll tell you what, between like a cheap condenser and a Heil, a cheap condenser will get you 80% there. The Heil might give you that extra 10 or 20% at the end. But experiment with mics and just see what matches well with your voice. Everybody has a different sounding voice, so one mic's not going to be the mic for everybody. And I just like experimenting with different mics and seeing how they work with my voice. And I don't know, I hit the MXL 990 right now, and it sounds okay. So I'm just using that for a while.
That's cool. And you said sometimes you would use a SM58, but that's definitely a step down from the MXL 990 and the Heil PR40, right?
You would think so, but for some people's voice, it's the one to use. I mean, Bono records with an SM58 sitting in a control room. He records his albums. You know what I mean? So you never know what's going to sound good with your voice. And I've probably done most of my shows with the SM58 and, I don't know, half with the Heil PR40 and half with the SM58, I would say. And I've done about over 1,000 shows total.
Wow. Cool. And you mentioned, I think in person when I met you, we were talking about the cables you have. You use a Mogami cables?
Yeah, I've noticed a difference. I mean, back when I was starting out, I wanted to improve the sound of my audio quality, and I went to Guitar Center. And this is like, this is the typical, you're going to run into BS car salesman type thing. I mean, not Guitar Centers like that, but just you go in with no knowledge to a music store. They're going to try to sell you the most expensive thing, right? So, and I don't take that as a generality. I love music stores. I love Guitar Center.
Of course.
But what I'm basically saying is I didn't know anything, so I was trusting the salesman. And I'm like, I want to get a new mic. I want a better audio quality. And he's like, well, what kind of cable you use? I'm like, cables don't mean anything. I mean, I could use a coat hanger and get the same. I don't fall for that cable crap. And he goes, have you tried Mogami? He's like, trust me. You can return this if you don't like it, but it will make a difference in your sound. So I reluctantly bought a Mogami gold cable, like a 6-footer or something like that. And, it undoubtedly and surprisingly made a very big difference in the audio quality of my mic. And I couldn't believe it, but it's legit and it's true. At least on analog, a good cable will make a difference in your sound, and I've experienced that. So yeah, I'm just running a short little Mogami cable into the audio interface.
Yeah, that's, I'm going to have to upgrade a bunch of my cables here in my studio because I know my mic cables are just regular standard quality mic cables, which are, fairly cheap. And, I'm using this vintage RE20 mic now and it sounds really good. It sounds good, but I'm wondering if it would sound even better if I upgraded the cables, because not only I'm going from my mic into my channel strip, right? That's number one. So from the mic to the channel strip, which has the mic pre and the compressor, then I'm coming out of the channel strip into my analog mixer, because I have to bring in, for my production, I have to bring in other computers and other sounds and, Barry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We got to bring in Barry on a mixer.
Yeah.
So that means there's another cable from my channel strip to the mixer. And then out of the mixer, I come direct out of, let's say, my channel, right? Because I'm on channel 6. I come direct out of each channel, actually, all channels, and into my audio interface, right? Which is my Focusrite 18i20 audio interface. And then that is where it gets converted from analog to digital, and then that's where it gets recorded on the computer. So there's one, from the mic to the channel strip, that's 1. Channel strip to the mixer, that's 2. Mixer to the interface, that's 3. It's going through 3 cables and a channel strip and a mixer.
Well, let me ask you this. Number one, you will see a difference, at least with the mic cable. I couldn't believe it, but once you try it, you'll see. It's uncanny.
I'm gonna do
what kind of channel strip do you have?
I actually have a Neve Portico 2.
Oh wow. Sweet.
So it's a beast. It's pretty awesome. And I'm only using the mic pre, the low end filter, so I'm rolling off some low end, and I'm using the compressor a little bit. I'm actually not using the EQ at all anymore. I used to, but it's a serious channel strip.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
All right, so you're good there, and you're going line out of that into line in on your mixer, or you're not going into like an instrument input or anything.
Yeah, I'm going right out of the channel strip, line into the mixer channel.
You're using balanced cables?
Yes.
Okay, too. Yeah, that's another thing too I learned is balanced cables, meaning like if you it looks like a regular guitar cable at the end, but if you only see one ring, it's not balanced. If you see 2 rings at the end of your cable, then it's balanced. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a stereo cable. It means it's a balanced cable as well. And that just takes out so much noise. If you guys aren't using balanced cables for your 1/4-inch cables and your hardware has balanced outputs, use balanced cables. They're not that much more And that's I found that to be a huge difference in my sound too.
Yeah, you bring up another good point, because I always take that for granted. Like any cables I do, I'm always trying to run it balanced, because it just brings down the noise and brings down the potential for noise, right? So
yeah, and most people don't know about that. They'll buy like regular instrument cable and use that as their line cable, and that's going to introduce a lot of noise.
Okay, so your audio interface is an Avid M-box. Tell me about that.
It's an M-box 3, and I'm a hardware junkie, and like a software junkie too for music and audio stuff. So I actually tried a lot of audio interfaces before I got this M-box, and it granted it's like 5 years old now, but the converters on it are really good, and it's built like a friggin' tank. Just don't try to use it with Zencastr. You can take that out if you want, Chris.
Hey, it's so funny, dude. While you're talking, I actually figured out what our problem was with Zencastr. So let me explain to the listeners briefly. We tried to connect using Zencastr a few times, and it wasn't working, right? There was it was like some sort of distortion on Steve's signal, and we couldn't figure out what it was, and we changed audio interfaces, and we did a lot of things. But
it took like 1.5 shows. It took like 1.5 shows for us to actually get this. So I wasted so much of Chris's time. Just so you guys know.
No. So here's the thing. I just realized this because I sent a message to Josh from Zencastr, because one of my other hosts, one of my clients, they all of a sudden sounded like they were there was like a slapback delay on their voice. They sounded like doubled for like a minute, and then apparently it went away. And I wrote Josh from Zencastr, and I was like, "Look, this weird thing happened. What is it?" And he's like, "Well, he actually checked the session in Zencastr, like on the back end of Zencastr, and he said, "Oh, your client's computer is set to the sample rate of, what is it? 96 kilohertz sample rate or 88.2 kilohertz sample rate." And what Zencastr has to do then is on the fly change your computers, the actual computer itself, change that sample rate to whatever Zencastr is, which is 44.1, I believe. And so that conversion has to happen on the fly. And so that can sometimes cause that little distortion. So I asked him, well, what do we do about it? And he's like, well, your client can, in their computer, they can change their sample rate on the machine itself. And so I said, well, how do you do that? And he sent me a link to some instructions or something. So, and I've never actually on a session had to work with a person or a client to change their sample rate or even check what their sample rate is on their machine. But I bet that's the problem we were having. And I'm going to have to include in the show notes the links, the info that Josh sent me, because that could come in handy in a lot of other with a lot of other audio interfaces as well. And
yeah, that's good to know. I didn't think about sample rate. I'll tell you, I think it was set at 44.1.
Oh, really? Okay.
To. Yeah, but I could be wrong. It might be it might have been at 48. It couldn't have been at 96 or whatever. But yeah, we didn't check that, and that sounds legit,
right?
Yeah.
All right. So your computer is an HP, I believe, right?
I switched. I got rid of that after the last time we tried to do the show.
Oh, okay.
I said this computer is not fit for Chris's podcast, so I'm not. Geez. It's not okay with me. So, but can we go back to the interfaces for a second?
Yeah. Hold on though, Barry. What did you think of the of Steve's old HP?
There's no activity, no giggle, no nothing.
Oh, really?
That's why
he didn't like that.
That's why I got rid of it. Okay. Yeah, no giggle. That's the reason I got rid of it. I put that in my Craigslist ad when I sold it too. I mean, just be aware this computer has no giggle.
Nice.
Yeah, audio interfaces. Look, I'll tell you this too. This might turn off some of your listeners. I don't know. I'm not a Pro Tools fan, like an avid Pro Tools fan. I have not worked in a professional recording studio, so I haven't been exposed to Pro Tools that much. I've done amateur stuff at home, and Pro Tools was always the most overpriced, unfriendly, cluttered, bloated DAW you could get. So this is my opinion. So buying a product from Avid, I wasn't thrilled about it, but I put it up against it was a Focusrite. It was an early Focusrite. It was like a USB 6, something like that. Okay. Not the Scarlet. It was the yellow one before that, Sapphire. think it was a Sapphire 6 USB.
Okay.
With amazing preamps on that thing. Super smooth, warm, velvety. I love the preamp on it. But the converters weren't cutting it for me on that one. I hooked up a Presonus box, and I tried one other one. And I'll tell you, honestly, the converters on the M-box 3 are really, really good. I mean, I was getting great audio out on that thing, and I could definitely hear the difference between the other two boxes. So I kept it and I used it. The preamps I don't think are the best, but for if you need high-quality converters, at least D to A, the M-box 3 is great and really impressive. So I was happy with that. So that's one of the reasons I used it.
Nice. That's good to know. All right, so you got rid of the HP. What'd you get?
Got rid of the HP. I went to Best Buy. I'm always at Best Buy looking at the laptops. I'm a laptop junkie too.
Right.
I ended up getting like a Samsung i7 15-inch 2-in-1 laptop because I love having kind of one computer, and instead of just having 8 computers in my house, I have one, and I just dock it everywhere. This way, I always have everything on the computer. I don't have to worry about copying something from one computer to another. I just have one computer and a bunch of docks all over the place, and I just dock it everywhere. And that's what I use for my computers. So I actually bought a Samsung Spin 7. It was on sale for $699. It's usually like $1,000, and man, it's been working great. I'm really happy with it. So.
And what did you say? It was a dual use or something? What did you say?
It's a 2-in-1. So it flips over and has a touch screen, and you can use it as a tablet. But no, it's 15.6-inch screen, 2-in-1. And I've been liking 2-in-1s these days. You could just take them anywhere, flip them up in a tent formation, and just use it as a touch screen, and it's pretty nifty.
And the i7, that's pretty fast, right?
It's an i7. You know, it's a thin laptop, so it's a ultra high. It's a 7500U, which is not the quad core. It's a dual core i7, but it's low voltage, so it won't kill your battery. So if you want an HQ, like a 7500 HQ or 7600 HQ, that's the quad core Beast i7 on mobile. But the 7500U, for the most part, I don't do anything that crazy. So it works great for audio and some video stuff.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Because it seems like the lighter the laptop or like a little smaller, they got to make everything a little smaller, a little lighter, a little not as beefy. But it makes sense because it's light and you can bring it everywhere, and it's still a dual core, so that's still good. But like if you were doing anything like hard, like this Isotope RX6 Advanced, which I've been loving, and a lot of the podcast engineering school students started using because they get a massive discount on that for being a student of the school. That thing, man, that takes up some processing power, dude.
Oh,
like,
really?
Serious. Like, even on my machine, which is an absolute beast, sometimes I'll let's say I do I'll level out a mix, and it'll take 8-9 minutes to process.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Well, let's say if it's an hour-long episode. But still, it's like because it's so high quality, it requires so much processing power.
Wow.
I tried one time on a little cheaper, one of my cheaper laptops. I had I put SoundForge on there, and I was just doing some editing, and I went to when I used to master within SoundForge Pro, I would add a multi-band compressor and then process it. And I hit process, and on this little cheap computer, it was going to take an hour and 20 minutes to to multi-band compress this mix. And I was like, really?
Yeah, I know what you mean. And I was a little worried about getting a dual core i7, but I figured I'd give it a shot. And if it ever did start being a problem for me, I would just upgrade or get a new computer. And so far, it hasn't. So I'm happy about that. But I'm with you. It was definitely a consideration for me.
And it's good when the computer's new, it boots up quicker, and everything's quicker. So if you kind of, just make sure you don't put every single piece of software known to mankind on that computer, then then it should stay clean and free and clean and work for you. So, all right. So,
totally.
So Studio One is the software you're using. It's a multi-track DAW. Like I said before, I was looking at that because recently. I bought a Waves plugin, okay, and I went to install it, and of course, Waves has an installer program.
Yeah,
the software you
Wave
actually
Central.
have to, yeah, Wave Central. So you have to install this on your machine, Wave Central, and then that'll install the plugin. And so it said, oh, your Wave Central is outdated. You have to, upgrade or whatever they call that. So I loaded the new Wave Central. I installed the new Wave Central, and then I went to open Reaper, and Reaper wouldn't open. It said, oh, we can't find this Waves DLL, like the .dll, one of the DLL files. And I was like, oh no. And it's funny because I went through my computer and I found that DLL that they said that wasn't there. I found it.
Right.
But apparently maybe it was in the wrong spot. I don't know what was wrong with it. I found out what was wrong because I actually contacted Waves, and they literally helped me and they took over my machine, and we actually had to uninstall Wave Central and reinstall it. But you know what they did first? And this is actually a really good tip for potential problems like this, is that apparently my antivirus software was blocking some of what Wave Central wanted to install, because he told me, he's like, Wave Central, when it installs, and a lot of these other installers do it too. Other software does it too, not just Wave Central. Some of these other plugin installer things do it too. But he said Wave Central will try to actually write something directly to the hard disk or directly to the registry, and your antivirus, if it's a good one, it'll stop it. And so it'll seem like it installed fine, but some of the files won't have been installed properly. So this guy we had to disable Bitdefender, which is the antivirus I use. Bitdefender. It's a really good one. It's not even that expensive, and it's very light footprint as well. It doesn't take up a lot of CPU, which is great. But disabling that was a problem. It was we had to go through settings and this and that. Anyway, we ended up installing Wave Central, and then Reaper did boot up. But here's the thing. In the middle of it, because this all took 8, I actually got it done in one day. The problem happened in the morning, and by that night, it was all fixed. But in the middle of the day, I'm like, oh my God, what if I can't use Reaper anymore? Now I have to get a new DAW. So I started looking around. I started looking at Pro Tools, actually, and because, I'm looking for what I can get on a PC. I'm not a Mac guy. So, and so I started looking at Studio One a little bit as well. And, but the thing about Pro Tools that I found out that might be of interest to the listeners is that, first of all, I'm using Reaper now, and it uses VST plugins and VST3 plugins. And here's the thing with Pro Tools. It only uses AAX plugins. So literally, Pro Tools has its own plugin format, and you can only use those. So all the plugins I've bought so far that I use in Reaper right now, if I did switch to Pro Tools, I wouldn't be able to use any of them.
I'm glad you ran into that, so you could not recommend Pro Tools to your listeners. No, seriously. I mean, Pro Tools, it's like Adobe. They're the industry standard. It's what music studios use. Right. Because Pro Tools has this very high-end hardware. And if you use Pro Tools with the very high-end hardware, okay, it cuts out a lot of latency and it's good for the plugins and stuff. But that's good for music studios.
Right.
It's not good for you. It does just because music studios use Pro Tools does not mean it's the best. Because they're the industry standard in the music studios, that means that they get lazy and they don't come out with innovations as much as the other guys do. So that's my opinion of Pro Tools. It's definitely not the best DAW. If you're a music studio, you have to use it because that's what other music studios use, and you want to be able to be compatible and stuff like that. I love Studio One. I've been using it since version 1. I think it's the Pro Tools killer. When Pro Tools finally kicks the bucket, it's going to be because Studio One kicked it into the bucket.
Oh, wow.
I really will make that claim. And I've used every DAW. I always come back to Studio One. It just works. It's smooth, and it actually sounds great. Believe it or not, if you could say that about a DAW, it's got a great sound. So it's highly recommended for me.
Yeah, apparently each DAW has its own audio engine, and that's what especially in terms of rendering a mix. Like when you render a mix in a DAW, each of them does it I mean, they do it in a similar way, but obviously the quality can differ. And apparently that's one thing with Pro Tools is that it's the audio engine is the best quality. And that's okay, fine. Because when, like you said, when you're doing music, you need that. For podcasting, you don't need that. So Studio One, if they're really hitting the ball out of the park, then that's awesome. I mean, yeah. So anyway, I didn't even look into Studio One that much, but I was literally thinking that that's the one I'm going to have to go with if I can't use Reaper, because what else am I going to use? I tried Adobe Audition because one client I had Adobe Audition files, and I had to actually buy it just to open up the episodes and mix their episodes. And I thought it was okay. I mean, okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
I don't know. I didn't see much of it.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, it's meant more, I think, for like voice than music Audition. So it's catered to that a little bit. It's got some pretty cool plugins built into there. Yeah, but I mean, you do have choices. You have,
Hindenburg Journalist Pro is another one I was thinking about.
I recommend that for podcasters because podcasters aren't really a lot of times techie guys, and they don't do music. So if you're just doing straight up podcasting, I like Hindenburg because it has a Skype recorder built in too. That's another amazing thing.
And it has like I know it has a compressor that's a one knob compressor.
Yes,
literally.
Yes. Exactly.
Hey, wait! When we were at Podfest, we were hanging out with the Hindenburg guy, right? I think he was showing us all this, right?
Well, we did a presentation. Yes. I did a presentation. I tried to use Hindenburg, and I had some technical difficulties. So the Hindenburg guy came up and basically saved the presentation. But I recommended it at Podfest during my talk because I think it's the easiest one to use. It's definitely the easiest one to use, and it's got a Skype recorder built in, and plus you could upload, I think, to iTunes, or not to iTunes, to wherever you're hosting your podcast directly from the program. It's great for podcasters. It's just expensive. Cool. It's just expensive.
Right. Well, Journalist Pro's what 400, 450? Something like that.
I think it's 400. Yeah, it might be 450.
Well, wait, Studio One. How much is Studio One?
The Pro version, which is like, you have a full music studio built into the thing, is like 400. Right. But that's the Pro version.
You're not using the Pro version of Studio One?
No, I am, but I'm just saying, for people who are starting out with Studio One, download Studio One Prime. It's free. And you could do most of your stuff with Studio One Prime. You could hear the audio engine. You could test out some of the plugins. You could see how easy it is to use. I love it because I do music production too, and it's always the one I come back to for music production. Always.
Got it.
But for your listeners, if they just want to do podcasting, I think Hindenburg is on the top right now as far as ease of use.
Right. All right, let's talk plugins now. So you recorded into Studio One, and now how do you process each track?
I'll use the Pro EQ inside Studio One. I think it's a great EQ and it does the job. It doesn't color. It doesn't have any color, so it's a straight up EQ. And I'll just tweak the EQ as needed. You know what I mean? For different voices, need different EQs. I will put light compression on the voice with the Studio One compressor. Again, no color, no real life in the compression. It's just meant to do what a compressor was originally meant to do, and that's level out the sound, take the peaks out, and bring the lows or the quiet parts up.
Right.
That's what you want to do in a podcast. You don't really need to add warmth or add color. You don't need to, but if a person's talking really quietly and then a person gets really loud, you don't want the person to have to turn up and down their music dial wherever they're listening to. So you use compression to just even that out. I do anyway. So I use the Studio One compressor. But my secret weapon for noise removal is it's the only Waves plugin I have, but it's the Waves NS1. It's a beautiful one. It's got one control on it from 1 to 10, and it's basically noise reduction. And it just works great. So I use that for noise removal and to keep things quiet. And it just works awesome.
Really? Oh, that's pretty cool. I haven't heard of that plugin.
Yeah, a lot of times it's on sale for under $100, and it's gold. It's a fantastic noise removal plugin for podcasters.
Nice.
One knob.
All right, now how do you monitor when you're mixing? What are you listening through?
I have these KRK Rokit 5 monitors. They're great. They do the job perfectly for podcasting. and I've been using them forever. There's not a ton of low end, but they'll give you a pretty flat signal. I've been happy with them, been using them for years. If you really need, though, to hear the bottom end, I use headphones. Because I go back and forth between headphones and the speaker monitors. And to hear the really low end, I use headphones. Right now I'm using, I think, Shure. Let me look at them. Hang on one sec. SRH 440s. And they do the job just fine for hearing low end. And between those two, I could get a pretty true mix,
Yeah, that's awesome. You got to take a picture of your setup there, and we can put it on the show notes.
Okay.
If you can. Send me a picture.
All right.
Or send me several. Pictures are awesome.
Okay.
All right, so that's right. That's a good distinction as well in terms of mixing, that if you listen through monitors and listen through headphones and kind of go back and forth, and that really helps to get an idea of what the mix is sounding like. So a lot of podcasters and a lot of podcast producers actually do not have, near field monitors set up, like have little speakers in their room that they're listening through. I guess some people may have like computer speakers they're listening through, but I would definitely don't ever do that.
No, don't.
Because you want like actual studio monitors that actually present to you what the sound actually is without coloring it, right? That's the whole idea.
Yes, that's the idea. And to hear the full spectrum of the sound. So if you have like 5-inch studio monitors like I do and no subwoofer, just know that you're not hearing the low end. So get some headphones that could reach down there, or get a subwoofer.
Yeah, it's funny, when I was researching near field monitors, because I recently, 6 months ago, maybe 8 months ago, I bought new near field monitors. And when I was researching it, a lot of people online in the reviews and stuff for these really good, high quality near field monitors, really colorless and true to the sound, people were like, oh, there's not enough low end. It's like, and then other people who are actually professionals would be like, look, dude, you're not supposed to, it's not like a dance party. It's not supposed to be a thumping low end when you're mixing something. And, but people, they just want to hear a nice smooth low end. I know there's those Atom speakers that they do have more low end and it's more smooth, and it's like, it's okay. And, you can try out different ones and hear what you like. But you don't want the speakers to make it sound like a dance party, because it might sound good on those speakers, but then you're going to take it in your car. It's going to sound like crap.
Right. I mean, like most consumer electronics, they'll jack up the bass. Like Beats headphones will jack up the bass so you can hear that. And yeah, if you're using Beats headphones to mix your shows or you mix your music, you're hearing way too much bass, and it's not truly what the audio waveform is playing.
Right.
So if you mix down with that, there's going to be no bass when people listen to it on their stereos, because you already have the bass jacked up. So I just get what you're saying, and it's true. Like, use your monitors to hear the true sound. Don't try to hype anything on them.
Right. And so tell me again what you use on the stereo bus within Studio One. What processor?
I just use the Studio One limiter on the stereo bus just to get my record, or get the level up to a suitable level. And I let the peaks of the audio tickle the limiter. The limiter's not full force crunching the signal. The signal tickles the limiter every once in a while. When the signal starts tickling the limiter, then I know I got it loud enough. So that's what I do.
Got it. That is good. Yeah. And see, you're touching on something that professionals do, and it's not overuse plugins or processing and stuff. Like, the amateur will just add way too much bass with an EQ, or will just crush a limiter and just, but when the more refined you get in your ear and your mixing and your production, you start to use effects, but you use them at the right amount, which is usually kind of subtle. You know what I mean?
Yes, for sure. I'll tell you what, also, because it takes years to learn this stuff, because it's a lot of listening involved, and you just have to train your ears to hear this. So don't worry, guys, if you're starting off and you're like, oh my God, I don't even know what a limiter is. Like, really don't worry about it. Just listen. And as you listen through the months and days and years, you'll start to realize, wow, I think I need a little more bass. And then you'll add that. But that might be in year 2 when you figure that out.
Right.
So just start off by not worrying about it and just trying to get the best sound you can. And the other stuff, it'll come with time. That's what happened to me.
Nice. All right. So now you're mixing it. You got everything set. You got the limiter on the stereo bus. You're listening through your KRK Rokit 5 monitors and your headphones, and you're going to mix it down. Do you mix it down to a WAV file?
Yeah. Okay. In Studio One, I just mix it to a 24-bit wave.
Okay.
Yep.
And then you take the 24-bit wave and bring it into iTunes.
I open it in iTunes, and I'll convert it to an MP3 there using a 192 MP3 mono.
Okay, 192 mono MP3, and you also tag it within iTunes, right? You can add all the tagging information and the image, right?
Yep, and that's where I do that exactly.
Okay, and then so you save it there. Well, so then iTunes must kick out the MP3. It has to convert the wave to the MP3, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then you save that, obviously, locally.
That's right.
And then you upload it. Where do you host your media files?
Well, because my shows are about the subject of music, I use SoundCloud because my shows are about electronic dance music, and a lot of people who produce that kind of music put their stuff on SoundCloud.
Right.
So I put my show on SoundCloud just to be in the same place that my audience is.
Nice.
And it's worked out great. I have like 3,000 subscribers on SoundCloud, and it didn't take that much work. So if I would have done that through maybe Libsyn or Blueberry or hosted it myself, I wouldn't have been able to hit that audience as easy, I don't think.
Right. That's a great example of going where your audience is. I love that.
Cool.
Right? It makes sense. That's what SoundCloud is for. I mean, all of my, this show, the Podcast Engineering Show, all my episodes are on SoundCloud, but I just did that because I kind of wanted to be everywhere. But I don't get many listens at all there because who's on SoundCloud looking for, podcast engineering podcasts? You know what I mean? Like, they're not many.
Right.
It's just there basically for search purposes. Like someday on there, someone's going to search for audio engineering and my show's going to come up. Same thing with YouTube. Right. That's why, a lot of people put their podcasts on YouTube, not for the listens, just for the search. So you can be found there, right?
It's true. But check this out. See, I actually use my RSS feed. I don't know if your guys are that technical to know what that is. They are, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. My RSS feed is from SoundCloud. It's what I use for my podcast hosting.
Right.
So check this out. So even when somebody listens to my show in iTunes, that's a SoundCloud play because it's playing from the SoundCloud servers. So,
that's cool.
Yeah, so my SoundCloud plays will go up no matter where they're listening to my show, no matter what podcast player it is, or if it's iTunes or wherever on the web that they find it, it's playing from SoundCloud. So that'll bump up my SoundCloud plays, which makes your SEO even better, or your ranking even better in SoundCloud when you're getting a lot of plays. So that's what I do.
Same thing when people use Libsyn. If Libsyn is their media host, and they, someone listens in Apple Podcasts or someone listens in Stitcher or TuneIn Radio, all the download numbers add up in Libsyn. So that's pretty cool. But not YouTube and not SoundCloud.
Well, that's the thing. Like in Libsyn's not a directory of podcasts. So who cares how many plays you have in Libsyn? It's not going to affect your ranking anywhere. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because if Libsyn was actually a podcast directory and you had 10,000 plays on one episode in Libsyn would rank it high. But Libsyn doesn't rank anything. They just store your show. SoundCloud is like YouTube. So if you have 10,000 plays on one of your shows in SoundCloud, people go to SoundCloud to find stuff. So they will rank it higher. So that's why I thought SoundCloud was a good idea. Now, SoundCloud, even when I subscribed with them, they were having some trouble financially, and who knows about their future. But I think they're so big that right now that they're never going to go away. And if they do fold, it's just because somebody else bought them. So I still think it's a safe bet to go to SoundCloud.
Yeah, it sounds like you're in the right place. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And until something major happens, just roll with it.
Yeah. And I don't think something major is going to happen. Like I said, somebody might buy them, but they're not going to ruin it because it's a working installation. It works. People are there. It's like, why would you destroy something like that?
I know. Well, people said the same thing about what was that? The Twitter thing, where you could have 4 people on video.
Oh, Blab. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
They just literally deleted that thing. Like someone, they're like, you know what? We don't want to do this anymore. And literally just go on the server and delete the installation and be like, we're done.
I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think because Blab didn't get big enough. They don't have enough. I actually don't know why they just deleted it. That was stupid, in my opinion. But it's like Amazon just bought Whole Foods. Do you think they're going to close down every Whole Foods? No, they're going to kind of nurture it and use it to make money. I think that's what's going to happen with SoundCloud. Somebody's going to buy it, and it's going to stay SoundCloud. It's just going to be owned by Amazon or whoever.
Right. So you got your eye on any new equipment or any part of your production that you want to upgrade or try something new, or what's going on in the near future for Steve Cherubino?
Of course. How could you be in this field and not have eyes for new equipment? It's an addiction. I'm plagued by it every day. I'm searching on Craigslist in the music section. I will tell you one thing before I get into what I'm lusting after. I didn't mention this because I actually downgraded my rig quite a bit. Like 5 years ago, I had 3 computers running Wirecast and all kinds of crazy video stuff and audio stuff. And I'm down to an M-box now. But one piece of equipment that was gold for me was a piece of hardware that I recommend people seriously look into for podcasting. It's the DBX 266 XL. It's a compressor and a noise gate built into one unit and 2 channels. So you can run 2 audio signals into it. And it really makes your sound, by twisting a couple knobs, it really makes your sound smooth. The compressor is great in it. It's butter smooth. And the noise gate, it's basically what I use my Waves NS1 right now for. My DBX 266 XL back then had a tremendously effective noise gate to just cut down a lot of noise. So that was one toy that I don't have now that I think is a great investment for any podcaster, and you can get them for under $100 these days. It's a rack-mounted piece of hardware that does compression and noise gate. 266 XL from DBX was gold for me. I loved it.
Yeah, that's cool. I actually have the 166.
Oh, sweet.
I have a bunch of them. Yeah, I think it's very similar. Compressor gate. Yeah. I actually use them. Right, I use them during recording because sometimes if someone is on Skype, well, Skype does. I don't actually use Skype very much for guests or for clients' guests. But Skype does a great job of limiting things and keeping the level very, in one spot. So when you get the level coming out of Skype, you know where it's going to stay the whole time. That's one thing that's good about Skype. But if I'm using Zencaster or anything else, then sometimes people will talk loud. Sometimes they'll talk soft. Even on the phone, some people I have on the phone through Skype, and I don't know, some people they'll talk into the receiver, but then they'll just like bring the phone away from their face. And it's like, dude, can you? So anyway, sometimes while I'm recording, before it's even recorded, I'll run them through the DBX 166 and just use the over easy compression because it's pretty much transparent compression, but it helps a lot in terms of bringing up those low parts when people, I don't know what they do.
No, exactly. It's exactly what I did too. I used it. I go into that first and record that signal. So that's hard recorded into the signal. And it does wonders for compression and removing noise too. I mean, that's exactly what I use it for the same reason you did. And I think it's a great tool for that.
Cool. So what else? Any other thing new?
Yeah, I actually just emailed a guy on Craigslist today. I'm going to check right now if he got back to me. I'm looking at new studio monitors.
Oh,
from
really?
PreSonus. Yeah, PreSonus studio monitors. Oh, he did. I'm trying to trade him a piece of hardware. He said no. Anyway, it's a pair of PreSonus Eris E5 monitors with the subwoofer. And because I want to get that bass out of my speakers. So I'm lusting after some new monitors with a subwoofer. That's one of the things I've been lusting after. Yeah. What else am I lusting after? I would like a good preamp for my mic, like a good hardware preamp. Like you have the Neve.
Right.
I'd like to have a Neve or something like that. So I'm always looking for something like that.
That's an that's like an investment. Like if you buy something literally for like $3,000 or $4,000, like a channel strip or a mic pre or a mic pre with an EQ and compressor, that's like a lifetime purchase right there. But literally, obviously, if you take care of it, it'll never go bad, and you'll always have it. And it's almost one of the strategies of mine in my life is like sort of slowly accumulate really good pieces of gear,
right?
And don't get rid of them. One thing I've done is I've gotten rid of some of those good pieces of gear because I had to, like back when I had no money and I had this I had a a 2-rack space, the Focusrite Red 7, like mic pre and compressor. It was awesome. It was like $3,500, but like there was a time in my life when like I really needed money, and I was like, why, and I wasn't even doing any studio work anymore at that point. So I was like, man, so I actually sold it, to Sam Ash or something for, I forget how much I got for it. Probably at least $1,500 or $1,800. Yeah.
I've been there. I know exactly what you're saying. It hurts to get rid of that gear, but on the flip side, it keeps me interested in the whole field when I'm buying new toys. So you have that going for you. When you get rid of old stuff, you get new fun stuff.
Totally. All right. Well, we're about to wrap this up, Steve. You want to tell anybody where to find you online?
Yeah, you can hit me up at stevecherubino.com if you're interested in podcasting tips and stuff like that. If you like EDM music, go to edmmr.com. That's where all my shows are. But I've helped out a lot of podcasters in my area, and I have fun doing it. So if you want to talk podcasting or anything like that, you can hit me up on my site and be happy to chat with you.
That's cool. stevecherubino.com. And EDM, by the way, for those of you who don't know, electronic dance music. Because I knew that, but then I forgot it. And then when we were talking about you coming on the show, I was like, EDM, what is that again? So
it's what the kids are doing these days. So
right, Barry, you like? Wait, hold on, I got to find the other clip. Hold on, Barry, you like EDM music? See, you can't say EDM music. It's just EDM.
People say it anyway.
Oh, all right, Barry, do you like EDM?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Barry, do you ever think you would, actually record, since you have such a nice voice, do you ever think you would record like an EDM album yourself?
Nah, it ain't going to happen.
Okay. Barry, imagine you singing EDM.
That's frightening.
He would be good on a track, I think.
All right. Well, this has been great. Steve Cherubino, thank you so much. Longtime podcaster, host of the EDM Producer Podcast, and all the links, everything will be on the show notes at podcastengineeringschool.com. Thanks again, man.
Thanks, Chris. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, it has been a lot of fun. So check out all our episodes at podcastengineeringschool.com. If you haven't listened to a lot of the older episodes, you might be missing something. So check out our back catalog. Until next time, you know what to do. Steve, tell them. Sound great!
You walk away from me well, and you can play that part so well. Why do you play it out on me now? You like to lose control well. It's quite a feeling, isn't it? They're floating, drifting down now. You tell me that you found something better. How should I respond to that? It's a lie. I don't wanna hear it. What do you want me to say? It's a lie. I don't wanna hear it. You react some empathy. You change your attitude well. You say I just don't get it now. You say your eyes so far away now. You gave up on me well. So change your game and give away. You say I wouldn't understand now. You tell me that you found something better. How should I respond to that? Oh yeah, I say now it's a lie. I don't wanna hear it. What do you want me to say? It's a lie. I don't wanna hear it. You react so angry. I want you to know you will always be true. I've gone over all we've been through. Doesn't seem that long a time now. Things we did still hold that meaning. And does it mean it's still your theories now where you get it worked up on your now. You work your way around somehow now. Yes, it hurts me now where that you don't talk to me now. Now that these worlds have split apart now. You tell me that you found something better. How should I respond to that? Oh yeah.